and welcome everybody to the NJCAAE semifinals. It's leg day to my, there we go, to my left, and I'm to the right. I'm Lemon Kiwi. We have four amazing teams competing for that grand final spot. Up to bat first is Finger Lakes versus Wake Tech.
It's true. We are, well, someone's going to be in the right lemon. We're going to be moving rightwards through our bracket. Let's bring that on up so you can see where we are at in the competition. Like Lemon alluded to, we're currently in the semifinals. We're going to get through both of them today. We're going to be first to three matches. Finger Lakes versus Wake Tech, and then SUNY Broome versus Bryant and Stratton. We're going to be starting off at the top of the bracket, as is tradition, with Finger Lakes versus Wake Tech. And well, I've got to watch a couple of the VODs here, Lemon, and you know what? Finger Lakes have had some pretty cool plays thus far. Do we have a roster available for them in our good old fashioned show? There we are.
Yes, I got to actually cast the quarterfinal last week between them and Lackawanna, as we were kind of really enjoying that name. Players that stood out to me. So I would say Tornado Man's and his Reinhardt is pretty, I called him a crazy idiot, but like in a good way. You know, when you have that friend that's a crazy idiot, it always brings you great experiences. That's the kind of guy that Tornado Man is. And I was really impressed with the jockey as Anna last week. There were so many fights that I felt were changed because of how many big bio grenades she was able to throw as Anna on these high grounds. So those are the two key players that I think stood out to me.
I agree. Jakia as a flex support really stood out to me for those bio grenades and for how much she was just extracting from the overall kit of Ana. I wouldn't expect her to really move away from that hero today with how much healing a main tank like Tornado Man does require. But also, I've got to think about the macro sensibilities of this team as well. I noticed in particular that they were very good at using vents on the Sombra to be a prelude to some good nano blades by getting pre-hacks onto things like Lucio's to make sure that there were going to be no boops or sound barriers to try and mitigate them. And it shows a good understanding from this team of their win conditions and how they can reinforce them by trying to mitigate the enemy's mollifying factors.
And when it comes to the meta, collegiate teams are always a little bit wacky, especially this team. They love their Reinhardt and their Roadhog. We've even seen some Junkrat from Venice as their DPS. But let's take a look at their opposition. It will be Wake Tech. It has to go all the way through this best of five if they want a chance to go into that grand final. So I haven't had the chance to cast them yet, but what do you think would be the keys to dealing with a team like Finger Lakes?
Well, this team is currently in their first season of competition. So, one of the things that this team's going to really have to be on top of is managing their mental and the mental fortitude that comes with playing in high stakes officials where elimination is on the line. Because the further you get, Lemon, the the more dooming the prospect of failure becomes, right? So, this team really needs to make sure that they're coalescing around a single spiritual leader who can really keep their spirits up. But they also can potentially strike back here if they are a little bit more calm and a little bit more collected and play a little bit slower because Tornado Man, like you said, bit crazy. He loves to go deep in, and that could easily be punished.
Yeah, and just we will be playing on live servers. So we're kind of used to casting over in contenders where there's OPR. There are a few patches behind, but our first map will be ready soon and we'll be jumping into that for our first semifinal. And the other one up to bat is SUNY Broome versus Bryant and Stratton. So you guys want to say strapped in for that one coming after, but this is live patch. Like, Dave, what are your favorite things for this patch? Because I already had a remake kill in my quick play games. And if that happens, I'm going to have to clip it on stream because those are the most satisfying kills you can get.
Yeah, they were like, you know what? I think Remet could do with a 400% damage bump. It went from 50 to 250 damage, but we're going to be going straight into game. So I'll have to take you through the other patch notes as we move into Busan. There's been about a 10% damage bump for Roadhog in terms of his primary fire. It's moved from 6 damage per pellet to 6.6. And it's made him a little bit more dangerous. So we might see a couple of those. Already you can see both Llama Cartel and VPAX showing some of that off.
Ooh, Llama Cartel on the hog again. Let's go. But I think the Kryptonite to a Roadhog is a good Ana. So I'm wondering if Wake Tech are going to want to bring this out later on because you need those bio grenades to stop the healing or even a sleep. Just stop that hog from hooking your team because that's the type of playstyle Finger Lakes are going for. They're going for picks.
Llama could also be given the damage boost from Snell when one of those picks occurs. I want to see if she's going to be on the ball with that. For now, though, you got to wonder about Jimmy. On the flank, they've already expended a hook. That's going to make Llama a top priority target.
So far, the point will be unlocked shortly, so you're seeing that first rotation from Finger Lakes. And seeing Ben's kind of not getting those initial hacks, and probably how can you, when as soon as you get close to them, Titanium's probably going to bubble them like they did for VPAX just there, who got bioed pretty low. Wake Tech actually above them. There's that first cap for Finger Lakes. And not a lot of ultimates that we got to worry about yet, but someone that you do want to keep that eye on is Jimmy. But when the hook's right in your face, that's not going to go so well. 5 versus 5, great trade, a hack onto that Lucio. What a critical bubble from Titanium to save Dapper in that situation. But Wake Tech still have to find a way to break inside of his objectives.
Yeah, real difference here is for lack of shield. Purple's given over that Sigma shield to the rest of the team. Meanwhile, Titanium just finds himself trapped in by that wall. Crimson King up top, channels the Deadeye, gets yanked on down. I've had enough of you on high ground, says Llama Cartel. Come and join us!
Woo! Jimmy just pulls those Ojakias. Snell, did we get a res? And I wouldn't want to leave this team either. How did Llama not kill Jimmy there? Jimmy is just clenching right now. But hey, either way, Finger Lakes invested the Blizzard to the right staircase where Wake Tech just sped out of it. So there's a lot of ultimates being used by Finger Lakes because they want to extend this lead that they have. But a whole hog physically pushes the entire opposition away, and Wake Tech are back in the game.
Old West style here. Multiple people find themselves suffering on the train tracks, but with Wake Tech gaining control here, even with 52% gained for Finger Lakes, they're going to have to contend with the Graviton Surge as they come through here, and they don't really have a great way to mitigate it. They don't have a defensive ultimate from their support.
Oh, that's a nano hog. That's a chonky pig. Oh, the door has now been closed. Thankfully, the shotgun doesn't tell you above that wall, but Finger Lakes have also invested an EMP, but not a single person of Wake Tech fell because of the Valkyrie healing of Fox. As Finger Lakes managed to even zone off Wake Tech and split the point in the process. A pretty big bio from Jakia gets Wake Tech low, as they might want to think about even the sound barrier engage, but with that pick on the Snell, maybe Wake Tech thinks they are low enough, and the double Deadeye from Crimson will open up this point, and it's Wake Tech back on it.
Overall there, I think Vents may have used the EMP in a less than ideal position because they wanted to use it to peel for both Llama Cartel and Purple, who were caught within the Graviton Surge. Now moving on, more raw damage is what Finger Lakes have ordered, and Soldier 76 is going to be the prescription that is written by the doctor. Wake Tech, though, already getting an early hook. That's going to send Purple so low. Jakia, as usual, on point with the heals, and Jimmy Games is Jimmy gone.
Such a good hook, and now it's a nano to Llama. Don't want to waste that time healing. Oh my god, Jimmy's going to be reporting Fox after that one. Did not want to be res, but a good Maywalk to secure that kill and separate that Ashe from the supports. And with all these picks, Finger Lakes, again, can easily zone this off. I want to see Wake Tech just die on this point, even if this fight is not winnable. You want to extend every single percentage point you can, and it's almost a tie game at this point.
Dapper Dino there with the last minute contest will actually allow Titanium to escape with their life and with their energy. So that's a really good trade for that Lucio to make, because they will be respawning incredibly quickly. It's kind of a unique support line, but we're seeing from Wake Tech. It's been a long time since I've seen both a Mercy and a Lucio, the double main support. But the Mercy brings a lot to the table, especially when you consider that damage boost. Snell taken down, and the same for Jakia as well.
VPAX making his presence known. Both supports dead of Finger Lakes. Wake Tech, this will be easy peasy lemon squeezy to get back on this point. And now how will they defend it? Well, like I see 4 options of ultimates for Wake Tech.
They need to strike first, though. They can't afford for Vents to get into a position where they will get a lot out of a damage boosted or potentially nano boosted tactical visor. VPAX looking for an early hook, but I don't think that it connects, and Bob finds her way onto point.
The grab maybe stops Finger Lakes from contesting, but I think someone came around back, and Jakia had the flashbang. And Wake Tech haven't lost anyone yet. With all 4 ultimates almost invested, the grab was more than enough to anchor every single one, and even the double Deadeye from Snell, I think was going for a res either way. What a close round one, 100-99 to secure it for Wake Tech.
I believe, as the youth say these days, sheesh! Oh, Crimson King with the drop down. Love to see it. excellent high noon there and making sure they knew exactly where their targets were and where their threats were as well. I think that definitely came down to Jimmy Games really stepping up in the second half of that stage, moving over onto the Ash, and with the help of Fox delivering her damage boost, really made sure that Finger Lakes could never stay out in the open and look for free poke to try and replenish an ultimate economy that was somewhat haphazardly constructed across many shaky fights. Moving over now onto Mecha Base, you could be reliant upon a shield here, like a Reinhardt, as you'd usually see in pro play, but neither team is going to opt into that. Still, Purple will bring the smaller shield to bear by using the Sigma, and Wake Tech feel that hiding behind shields, that's coward's play.
And no Lucio from Finger Lakes, so that means just Vence on this Reaper is going to be slow going, have to really just rely on himself to maybe TP behind, and already gets found. He was chased down by Jimmy, finished off by Crimson, 6 versus 5 for Wake Tech as they stare down at the point, just occupied by Finger Lakes, but it hasn't been unlocked yet with these picks on the supports. They're completely exposed. The shields of Purple are more focused on brawling, I think someone that was close to them, instead of protecting the people that really matter. So Finger Lakes lose that one quick, and Wake Tech will cap.
Jackia moving away from Rihanna for one of the first times I can remember. Instead, she's going to opt for the Baptiste. Will provide a little bit more in terms of personal survivability if they want to use the Immortality Field, but Glitch Sparrow moving over here onto the Junkrat, I think is less well advised. You're not going to be able to take a good duel with Crimson King at distance by using a Junkrat.
Well, I like the hacks from Benz. Went after V-Packs, just farming up that EMP, especially if you can hack while they're healing. Deny that a very important cooldown. It's a pulse! And what a quick reaction from Jackia to get that immortality down, but that's out of the picture. And with that pick on Vence, out of invisibility, that's Wake Tech still in the driver's seat. Finger Lakes still going to impose himself on the point and even potentially get a flip as Jimmy went to contest and walks right into the hook and probably the trap of Glitch. So I'm wondering how Wake Tech are going to dislodge them from there. It starts with the Bob, tosses up some of these tanks, but a great hack actually disables that Bob and makes it pretty useless.
Showing off that brand new damage of the Roadhog. Plenty being done here by Llama Cartel, but now they have more targets to deal with, and they're disrupted midway through the hook. V-Pack says, I'm the king of the pigs around here, thank you very much, son, and turns his opponent into some finely seasoned sausage. Still, Llama Cartel will be able to strike back Whole Hog versus Whole Hog, and that could be a really good technique to get rid of one of Wake Tech's tanks. Either Titanium or V-Pack if they get a little bit too frisky here. If they get hooked in, I'd expect them to be solo ulted. That would be good value for the Whole Hog.
That was a good hook onto Purple. If they would have got that first pick, kind of involved them in the fight before they really wanted to. And, oh, that's a counter hook. Llama in a lot of trouble is getting healed by Snell. But maybe the Coalescence could even help support this push as the Whole Hog is making a whole lot of space. Finger Lakes already jumping on this point. Vence has translocated back. Jimmy on the hunt, maybe for a health pack or a kill. Oh, what a hook onto that Ash and the bubble from Titanium. I can't count the amount of times this guy has saved his team from these critical hooks, and almost a double boot off the coast side. Finger Lakes starting to jump off. They might have flipped it for a couple of percentage points, but Wake Tech are back.
Titanium here with the restraint as well. We all saw it. We all saw the potential grab that could get nearly 5 people in it if they'd used it on that blast shield as it came up, but Titanium held onto it knowing that they had the advantage on the point and that they'd be able to flip it back. Wake Tech right now have come alive. Remember, these guys are a much lower seed. They're seed number 5 versus seed number 2 of Finger Lakes. They've already achieved one upset. Can they get themselves another? It would start on this next fight.
Well, unfortunate that Llama Cartel missed a hook that would have canceled the whole hog of V-Packs, and Titanium even has a leftover grab, and Finger Lakes keep focusing on going through the objective first instead of winning the fight, while Wake Tech has a better positional advantage, being above them. A very critical EMP from Vence to try and cancel out some of these ultimates, but Dapper uses the sound barrier after to reinforce Wake Tech in this last cleanup. Maybe this round not being so close, the point still has to be flipped over and get rid of a couple of stragglers of Finger Lakes as they hope to get back to the point and keep contesting it before the flip, because it's 99% for Wake Tech.
Jackia stands alone. Vence wants to try and trigger overtime. Will come out of stealth just in time to do so. Purple's going to charge him from the back, but they're going to connect with a blast shield instead of an enemy member. Now they are going to be stuck holding up their shield and desperately playing for their life. But guess who's up top but Crimson King? A fully loaded Viper rifle blasting away. Goodbye, Llama. Goodbye, Finger Lakes. Hello, Wake Tech.
Wow, what a statement to make in that first round. I mean, 100 to 99 on Downtown, and it was 100 to 63 on Mecha Base. We have tested a lot of Overwatch, where it felt like the Roadhogs were dictating the game and who was outperforming the other, which was really helping to push the team. But I was impressed by both, and especially Crimson King, their Ashe, and how many times they were able to pick off these supports, like you see, quite literally in this play of the game.
Crimson King doing a fantastic job here on the hit scan, and I do wonder, it felt like both Jimmy and Crimson King were kind of hit scan specialists right there. They kind of swapped for McCree, for Tracer, and the Ashe between themselves. So as we go over to other, maybe more projectile friendly maps where you might expect to see a Mei, maybe you'd see a Farah at this level. Will that be in the wheelhouse for these guys? Do they have a substitute who they could bring in to play more flex or projectile based heroes like a Genji or an Echo as well? But what I have been very enthused by here is the fact that WakeTech seem to be doing very well without needing to play a main tank. They played both the Zarya and the Roadhog over the course of both rounds and still managed to win out. So that is usually a really good hint that a team's positioning is very good because they're not relying upon a Reinhardt shield for survivability. Either their supports are very much on top of them, or they're just playing physical cover very well and choosing their moments to engage without taking too much poke.
Absolutely. That first map was so incredibly close, but you brought out such a good point about the difference in positioning and how Finger Lakes were always going to the objective first on Busan, which I know it might sound crazy, but it's not always the best play because those objectives are on the low ground, and the number one rule of Overwatch, if you were on the high ground, you have the better angle above them, you can get above the shields, and you can dictate when you are ready to fight. So Finger Lakes were always just going to the point first, while WakeTech focused on the high ground, and that's where Crimson was able to get fantastic angles on the Ashe and just spray down, and how WakeTech were able to win the first fight on Mecha Base.
And with Fox permanently playing her Mercy, it feels like there's always going to be a huge danger of an untouched DPS on the high ground, because if you can't touch a DPS on the high ground, you can't touch the Mercy that's healing them either, or giving them a damage boost, and that makes them so much more deadly, because even if you can throw some poke their way, they won't feel the need to try and disengage to save themselves, because they've permanently got that attachment of the Mercy. So what needs to happen right now for Finger Lake is they need to consider, do we play something like a Winston, something like a Diva, or maybe even a Genji or a Tracer to make sure that Crimson King is permanently contested? But also, playing the Tracer could have its downsides, because Jimmy Cakes likes playing the Tracer as well, and often you have to sort of put your own Tracer on what we'd call like man marking the other Tracer, just making sure that they can't operate with impunity because they constantly want to be using their own blinks and their recall in a duel with their counterpart.
Well, when I think of a close map, a close series, I think of Barbasol and how much they like to promote close shaving. I know we're the two best people to be promoting some shaving cream, but this broadcast was brought to you by Barbasol Shaving Cream. Feeling great starts with a great shave. As you can see here, I look nice and smooth. Great shaves start with Barbasol Shaving Cream. Barbasol Shaving Cream, an American classic for over 100 years. Close shave America, close shave Barbasol. Let's go into map number 2. I don't think they should get me to do the shaving cream ads, but Barbasol is incredible nonetheless. Thank you for supporting the stream.
Oh, but Lemon, you are just perfect. So smooth.
Baby smooth.
Oh, me too. Me too. It's been
By choice, of
November
course.
for me for approximately 17 years. As you can tell, it's going very well. Thank you for your support. Finger Lakes are going to starting off on the defense here as we move over to Eichenwald, and it's no surprise that they have chosen this to be their map, given how conducive it can be to a huge Reinhardt performance. Shinobu has been subbed in here, and we have double Shimada power coming through from Shinobu and Vents, who have decided to play both the Genji and the Hanzo. So there are multiple win conditions here for Finger Lakes. Firstly, you have the Nano Blade, and secondly, you have the Graviton Dragons.
I wonder who's going to be the first to swap the Diva, though, because as a Zarya player, if I see a Hanzo, that's just an insta-swap. You need that Matrix to eat up some of this poke, especially the Storm Arrow. Just bursts it down so quickly. I like that Jimmy's getting a position on that top right high ground. V-Pack just going to take a nap. You know, you need your energy before the spike comes down. Oh, the hook up to Reinhardt. A great bubble from Llama Cartel this time, but the Storm Arrows were too deadly as Jimmy finds that first hit, but the res was allowed to go through. I think Wave Tech could have taken a lot of space there.
Maybe so, but still had to trade herself for the main tank. And now Tay Shinobu trying to take away the space. They're going to have to duel with their brother, but that's going to be both a slate from Jarkia and the finishing blow from Vents coming in. Alas, Fox had the space to bring back her main DPS, but Llama Cartel at the back. It's time to pay your dues, boys and girls, or the Llamas are going to come knocking.
Yeah, knocking with 5 kills. Hello. I would not be answering the door if Llama came knocking, that's for sure.
You got a license for that, Llama, mate.
Right, Wave Tech went for a res on the right side, so Llama flanked on the left, and the reason why they got 4 or 5 kills is they were high energy and still had self-bubble. That was a huge play.
And now they have every win condition that they need. All they need is to not use both of them, Lemon. Do they open up with the Graviton and the Dragon, or do they use Nanoblade? Nanoblade comes first.
Oh, and the instant bubble, so you just dodge any kind of CC, and that's the flash bang, and maybe a boot from the Lucio. Without an Ana, that's the only two you really have to worry about. But another great play, great cycling from Finger Lakes as they're buying themselves more time.
I wish Finger Lakes there had been a little bit more aggressive with their positioning and actually joined Tay Shinobu in the backline. They have been resurrected up, but Tay Shinobu is going to survive. Did they just slam a sleeping man? Oh, Fox is public enemy #1, but she's still breathing, she's still going, and she ain't going to give this up for nobody. Llama Cartel goes on down, and V-Pax is going to go on an absolute tear with the scrap gun.
Fox is just not allowed to live, just breaking the knees over and over again. But Finger Lakes were the one that pulled the trigger first. It started with the Nano Blade, and then they had the Shatter and everything, but they just hesitated. And you can't have an aggro main tank without an aggro team to int along with him, or else Tornado Man's gonna look like a fool. So everyone has got to be on the same page when he goes for shatters like that. So Wake Tech advancing through.
Alas, maybe this portcullis can be held with an aggressive usage of the Graviton and the Dragon Strike. For now, Llama Cartel just needs to stay alive. It's going to be down to Jarkia to make that happen.
Oh, one more shot. Another critical bubble from Titanium because V-Pack got a little bit low, but Llama Cartel down early. Wake Tech also don't want to push too aggressively because Vents had the Storm Arrow out, and they probably know they have Dragon. I'm wondering when that grab and Dragon's going to come out from either side, and you're waiting for a nice group up as Jimmy's trying to find the forehead of Jackie. V-Pack dives under, gets them dangerously low. There's the grab and the Dragon from the defense this time, but no one was really caught. I don't even know where the grab went. I don't think it got anyone. Well, the kill feed says a lot, so Wake Tech trying to get back on this cart, but there was a flank also from 2 members of Finger Lakes, and that was easily dealt with. So Wake Tech at the sail on in the point B.
I don't know where that Graviton went there from Llama Cartel, but they're done playing Zarya. They're going to move on over to what was formerly V-Pax's territory. Snell is surviving for a surprisingly long time here, but I don't know if it's really in her best interest to do so. Mercy on Mercy action, and Fox decides that she's going to be the alpha of the 2 Eagles right now.
A great hack, Titanium, a dangerous position. There's V-Pax jumping in, bubble down. Shinobu finishes him off too. And I don't think that's a resible position, especially with Llama Cartel hook online. And a flashbang too. It's a Nano Tornado Man. Get out of the way, Jimmy. The bubble won't save ya. Quick recall, asleep on the Titanium, but nothing that Finger Lakes can really react to. So they will be holding on to Castle.
My lord. That's a nice shot there from Tay Shinobu, of course. Added effectiveness thanks to Snell with that damage boost, and for now they've got to be very careful with their positioning here because they're going to be going up against Jimmy Games, who's moved over onto the Junkrat. And Junkrat is particularly effective on this point of eye control. Those 90-degree angles, you don't necessarily need to directly see them. That is your enemies to be able to put down damage, so it's a little bit unfair.
I think Llama got trapped. Hey, turns out Junkrat is a counter, but as Titanium threw the grab, it was a counter Dragon from Vents to stop the follow-up. And then Wake Tech used Sound Bear and ran the ball over. So it doesn't even matter. It's a rock, paper, scissors game, and 3 minutes left for Wake Tech to finish the match.
Llama Cartel already forced to use that take a breather. That's for damage reduction gone, that's for healing gone, and now it's got to be the whole hog that pushes everybody away. Alas, up top there is going to be a Deadeye, and it takes down Shinobu. Crimson King once again, it may be the untouched hit scan on the top, but they need to connect with their shots. Jimmy Games is going to connect first, taking down Vent, and VPAX has still got the primal rage in the tank if they feel like things are getting a little bit messy.
Oh, what a push from Wake Tech, starting with the Crimson King, getting pocketed by Fox in the top left, picking away at Finger Lakes' backline. Then you had the Jimmy Games tire that took down Vence, who was TPing behind them as Reaper. Just Wake Tech were reading Finger Lakes like a book, and a 2-minute 19 time bank is humongous in the world of Overwatch.
I gotta reiterate some seeding numbers right now. Finger Lakes, second seed, came 8-1 out of their group, I think. They came out top of their group. And Wake Tech, this has been their first season. Maybe not the most veteran of competitors. They've already upset the number 4 seed. It was a really close game. Or at least it should have been. Number 5 versus number 4 seed. And as you get deeper into this bracket, you get to the semifinals, you're forced to go up against some of the favorites like Finger Lakes. And right now, Wake Tech not only look good, but they also look undeterred, and they don't look like they respect Finger Lakes that much, which is so important when you are the slower seed. You need to not be scared of your opponent, and you need to make sure that you're still going to play the game the way that you want instead of trying to counter your opponent. And Wake Tech thus far seem pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, Wake Tech, we already saw in Busan how much better they were at positioning, but now this map is telling me they're also better at using ults when it came to throwing out the grabber, when to sound barrier engage. The Dragon Strike and the Graviton, we still got to work on that for both sides, I'm not going to lie. But Wake Tech look amazing. Let's see if Finger Lakes can match it.
Titanium and VPAX here are going to be faced up against a Reaper, but I'm not particularly a fan of a Reaper against this composition, to be honest. I feel like additional poke would be better when they don't have a permanent shield. That's a nice shield there to cleanse VPAX, though, making sure that he isn't going to be afflicted by that Bardic Grenade for long. Vence in the back, looking for an early pick. Jarky would be the ideal pickup.
Oh, the bubble came a little too early from Titanium, so as soon as that was done, VPAX got bioed by Jakia, and that was the first pick for Finger Lakes, but while Vence and Shinobu were trying to go on a flank, they got deleted too, so without that damage, Finger Lakes might suffer, especially with a high-energy Titanium sitting in their face. They've had, I've said it so many times, I'm singing the Titanium song, no NDA, or no DMCA implied, but he's becoming the third DPS of this team. They gotta deal with Titanium.
Yeah, the lyrics to Titanium are under NDA.
Yeah, that too.
It's interesting to me as well, but Wake Tech are losing the poke war here, despite having 2 main supports and no shield of their own. I wish that Shinobu and Vence would move over to a little bit more long-range damage, because they'd be able to out-poke Wake Tech in but a couple of seconds. They've got 2 shields.
You gotta grab almost online 200 energy. I mean, any sort of grouping at all. But a quick peel forces out the raid from Vence, joins the rest of the team. Llama Cartel going for a Forbidden Plus. And that's a nice grouping. Titanium target number 1. And look how Tornado Man is forcing them into building. But the clapback from Jimmy as they make the space off the dragon, picks on Snell. There's only Jockey up for heals, who was extremely low and off to the left side. Will not have sights on Llama Cartel on the other side of the car, and the whole hog will push everyone away. Wake Tech will hold on again.
You've heard of Vazaya being strong as the mountain, but strong as Titanium may have to supplant that saying when this round is done. 2 ticks have been secured, yes, by Finger Lakes, and half their time bank is gone. We need to see huge value gains here off the Nano Blade. And the difference that I need to see compared to how they defended A is that the rest of the team actually joins Shinobu in this dive. Last time they sat back and they watched. They're like, have fun, Tay. We'll be over here clapping.
Okay. Nano Blade, let's go. We gotta talk to each other. When is it time? The dash up says 3, 2, 1, go.
And after the mercy,
receive the bubble right away. Dodges the Graviton for Titanium, and Snell cannot follow up with this as Shinobu goes back towards Jakia for a bit of healing as Tornado Man takes over the frontline battle. Wake Tech starting to fall back as Fox had to go for a resurrect to bring back Dapper. Sacrifices her left for it, and you only have Lucio heals, and it's not going to be enough for this defense. Finger Lakes are back.
Great spatial claim there by Finger Lakes, making sure moving on to that area that they had to contest was going to be incredibly painful, Lemon. VPAC's going to move away now from that Roadhog. Instead, it's going to be the Winston once more, wanting to control these high grounds and also wanting to be an absolute pain for Taishinobu. Some would consider Winston to be one of the best counters for a Genji. That's not the disengage they wanted. Slept in midair by Jackia. Go to bed, she says.
If you ever play Winston, missing a jump is just the end of that.
That's
you
sadness.
just take the L, you go next. Yeah.
Win time.
The duck windmill, I don't love it. I don't love it in the middle of 6 people. I do not. Finger Lakes, just maybe try to stabilize on those cards. They still have Taishinobu technically the backline. The flashbang couldn't get the second shot. Crimson wants that kill so bad, but he's like, where's those Genji blades coming from? Snell with too big of a jump gets finished off by Crimson, and Finger Lakes are desperately needing heals, and they're not gonna get any of them. Crimson finishes off both supports, and Wake Tech are doing just fine.
Taishinobu finding low health targets, and Titanium here needs to stay on the high ground until they're fully reinforced. They still don't have their main tank. Crimson King, that needed to be body blocked by Titanium. You can't allow for that to hit. Pax placed himself on the cart, and now the rest of Wake Tech will join for the brawl.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to that Grubetic Flex from Llama Cartel too. Did he just... I don't think they pulled anyone, because I didn't see any CCs that canceled that. That's unlucky.
Like, if it misses, it just cancels. It's like, oh, what's the point?
True.
It's a very sad Sigma. Jimmy here on the Tracer. Could be a lot of harass very earlier onto Jackia. And Vince is already being forced out of their position, but VPAX actually fell down chasing the Reaper. Nanoblade in action.
No nano yet, though?
Oh, no.
I guess wasn't in sight to... Yeah, you expect, like, you know, peanut butter and jam to go together, but wasn't in sight of Jackia. It went maybe too far up, and you need that extra damage. You need the damage mitigation. Probably why Taishinobu hesitated on that blade. As a desync grab thrown from Titanium was bioed in the process and finished off, but I think the damage has been done. Snell coming in just to die with the team, I guess, and Finger Lakes have to reset.
I would have allowed that res. You could have actually him that, like, why did you return me to this hell? Snella's going to move away from the Mercy, though. No more resurrections, as they're preferring for the AoE healing that's offered by the Moira. And also greater escape potential if you get dived upon by Jimmy and VPAX.
Uh-oh, speaking of dived upon, you got VPAX and Jimmy behind. Taishinobu, you do not want to be dancing with a Winston. He's clunky, he sucks at it, and he'll zap you to death. This is Wake Tech trying to zone off, well, the singular member of Tornado. Why is it Reinhardt by himself? Meanwhile, you got VPAX sleeping. It's a little bit of a circus, but Finger Lakes only have Jackia heal. Snell has been found. A Primal is about to find the forehead of Llama Cartel, and Finger Lakes are left with only 30 seconds to plan their next move.
This is scary for Finger Lakes. At the beginning of this series, I talked about how Wake Tech needed to maintain some mental fortitude, but the same thing goes the other way. Feels like Finger Lakes, they are just grasping at straws right now, trying to find a way to penetrate this defense from Wake Tech, which is working so well off the double bubble engagements. But Crimson King dropped into the path of Tornado's charge. What?
I would nano Tornado Mans. He just shattered that too, actually, and it's both supports. You trust in Tornado Mans for president. Absolutely. Wake Tech still have a sound barrier, pulse bomb, Deadeye, but wanting to wait for the whole team. Benz actually ended up getting nano. What? Dapper! Delete the supports! Llama Cartel's gonna keep this winnable. Physically removes them. Rocks off this Winston from the card, but Wake Tech were able to contest in time. Finger Lakes need this point B, or Wake Tech will go to series point.
Dapper Dino pushing people off of that bridge is my new favorite part of the Jurassic Park series. They have returned, but 1 versus 3 is not going to go in their favor. Unfortunately, there it was a bit of a yo-yo of competence from Dapper Dino, getting the triple boot. But then, so going for a solo sound barrier and dying midway through the cast was not ideal. Wake Tech, they are going to be guaranteed a longer time bank here. They can guarantee themselves a draw as well if they can get Finger Lakes to have to use overtime to take this point.
Oh, that's where VPAX got a little bit more love from Titanium. Got the bubble instead of Crimson. You always want to bubble your Doomfist as much as possible because your Winston can quite literally bubble himself. A little bit more safer than the Doomfist, but So much pressure is being applied to Finger Lakes, and the Coalescence is only helping so much. Jock is still getting back from spawn, so 46 seconds left for Finger Lakes.
That's a very early usage of the Immortality Field as well there from Jackie, likely trying to help people disengaging. They're now somehow ending up with Tornado Man on Diva and Llama Cartel on Reinhardt. I told you about how the mental fortitude was going to be needed to shovel this one across the line, and right now, Finger Lakes, it feels like they are still just grasping at straws, so they're going to get hit by the Primal. They want the environmental kills on the bridge, but VPAC's just giga-fed. Next to a 1000 HP ult charge, we'll take it.
Yeah, I'll say Primal Rage is not immunity, but nice little punch from Crimson. Would like that to be against the wall. Still finish off Jockey up before the Immortality could save her. It's Life's head on defense with mid-TP animation. Crimson is going ham. The triple kill and Wake Tech. This will be an easy cleanup as soon as they get rid of Tornado Man. You know, when I already claimed him as president, and he's going to be charging into his own death. Overtime's about to go away, and Wake Tech will be taking Ica Ball, going to series point.
And one of the things that I talked about before this particular map plan was that I was slightly worried as to whether Jimmy and Crimson were both hit scan specialists. And we've actually seen both the Doomfist from Crimson and the Junkrat from Jimmy in this map, which has left me feeling that right now there aren't too many weaknesses for this Wake Tech team.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say, no surprise I got play of the game. I forgot that there's a literal 5K from a Zarya that just walked into 6 people with 100 energy. I forgot that happened. I think my second favorite would have been that boop we saw on Point B bridge. That just almost killed the attack for Finger Lakes there.
That provides a little bit of lasting psychological scarring as well when it comes to how you approach that Eichenwald bridge in the future. But it is going to be Wake Tech placing themselves on match point as, I would say, very much the underdog in this series. They have come out with what's been very impressive. I talked about it before, how they're positioning without having to rely upon a main tank has been quite instrumental to their success. But also when they have their main tank, when they have VPACs play on that Winston, then Titanium is so well in sync with where the bubbles are going, and this double bubble strategy that's quite popular over in the eastern regions, over in Asia for professional Overwatch. They may have been studying some VODs because their double bubble engagements are looking good, and VPAX is surviving a lot of the time if they don't mess up their disengage.
Well, speaking of futures and successful futures, this is time to give love to the Army National Guard. If you guys want to play video games, or do anything part-time, the National Guard is a part-time commitment, so members can go to work, go to school full-time, play video games full-time, and still have the benefits of the National Guard. So by pursuing multiple paths at once, Guard members can set themselves up for a successful future. If you guys want to learn more about how the Army National Guard can benefit you in your future, go to nationalguard.com/esports and check out their Twitch channel. They're starting to get more into esports and have really cool streams. Twitch.tv/Army National Guard is where you can find them.
Yeah, let's hope that there's some improvement in the future of Finger Lakes Community College as well, because right now it's looking kind of rough. These guys do have an 8-man roster though, so there's always the chance that maybe there could be some substitutions here, maybe get in a little bit of a fresh mental. I believe one of their professors is their coach, and it's always good to have someone who's got both veterancy and your respect on your team to make sure that not only is the faculty really supporting the esports team, but there's someone with real gravitas to make sure that you continue to be quite mentally aware of what decisions you're making and how what you're feeling may be impacting those, because often it can lead to players going out of position, trying to make hero plays, feeling like they need to carry. And in a team game, especially one as sort of limiting on singular pop-off potential as Overwatch, that will put your team down in some garbage tier spaces.
Well, you brought up such a good point about positioning. We saw on Busan how I was much more of a big fan of how Wake Tech were just commanding the high grounds and setting up their hit scans into the best positions to rain down hell on those support players, and how maybe there's some minor disconnects between players of Finger Lakes when you talk about how a big winning condition was either the Grab Dragon we saw didn't really connect on their defense, and also the Nano Blade, where I think most of the time the Nano Blade worked out, but there was the last nano blade where I think Keishinobu went in without really communicating with Jakia. So ended up that the nano blade went up and didn't get the nano and then came right back down and, sat down and maybe just quieted down.
Yeah, the blade went up, and well, I'm afraid nothing really went down except a little bit of a shameful hideaway. But it's okay. The volume of our voices is going to go down slightly because we're going to go to a quick break.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice.
And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless?
On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
Behind every face is a story. Unique. Each and every one. Beautiful stories. Inspiring stories. Some beyond our wildest dreams. And every day, a new story begins. We salute every fearless, self-assured, undeterred, hopeful face all across America. Here's to the next 100 years. Barbasol.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
Welcome back, everybody, to the NJCAAE semifinals. We got Wake Tech and Finger Lakes 2-0 for Wake Tech, though. This could be a short series. We'll find out what map we're going to next, see if Finger Lakes can change something up.
The underdogs, or some would say under eagles of Wake Tech, have brought it to the Lake Monsters from Finger Lakes Community College. And what changes can be made here by Finger Lakes? It feels like right now, all Wake Tech need to do is continue on the run that they're currently playing. Like, they seem to be fairly viable on so many different approaches. They like their double bubble. They aren't really reliant on a Reinhardt that can play double off tank and do it successfully. They're winning Roadhog duels as well, which is very important in the overall metagame here because we know how much Llama Cartel loves to play on that Roadhog. And right now, it feels like VPAX is kind of getting the better of him there. Our map choice here is going to be imperative if maybe they want to try and force the lack of efficacy from that double off tank and maybe force a main tank duel.
Well, we saw a lot of great Roadhog on Busan, but I was also just as almost a bigger fan of the Zarya play between Llama Cartel and Titanium. And I was singing so many praises about Titanium because if you're a DPS player, you are just paying somebody to be that kind of Zarya player for you. The bubble timings have been on point, saving them from hooks. And I think I only criticized one bubble out of all the ones I saw. So I've been really, really impressed by that. If they go back to the Zarya, I would just hope that they kind of combine that Dragon Strike Graviton combo a little bit better. And if one uses the Dragon Strike before the other, you just got to sync back up again.
Yeah, maybe you would either look to sync back up again or maybe swap away to something else. It depends on what kind of changes may be needed at that time and if you manage to win the fight off the back of a Dragon Strike, which can be quite quickly generated. So it's not the end of the world if you have to hold the Graviton for a while, because one of the things that we get to talk about quite a bit in Overwatch, especially when it comes to Sombra gameplay, which Vents has shown quite a few times, although not so much in this series, is the threat of an ultimate compared to the actuality of an ultimate, in that it can force an enemy support to save their own ultimate, their defensive countermeasure, by expecting that that ultimate is going to come out any time now. And it can lead to people being picked off when maybe they could have been saved by more proactive support.
Looks like our next and maybe final map is ready to go. Wake Tech up 2-0 over Finger Lakes, and there's no lower bracket, guys. This is it. This is the ticket to the grand finals on the line in our second semifinal. To find out who is going up against them will be right after this, between Suni Broom versus Bryant and Stratton. And the map that has been chosen is Volskaya, and Wake Tech will be attacking first.
Wake Tech going to be the pace car here, and VPAX, no, you get off Zarya. That's Titanium's hero. Although, one of the things that has been quite consistent about Wake Tech, even with Crimson King and Jimmy Games both being proficient at hit scan and projectile, both being flex DPS, VPAX and Titanium both opting into strange tanks at times, they've been playing double main support a lot. So they've been able to disengage quite quickly from sticky situations, and they've been able to move through fields of fire rather quickly, as well as support Crimson King and VPAX in their individual duels by using the damage boost from Fox. And I think that might be one of the reasons why their double off tank is working so well, because obviously without a shield, you are going to be catching huge amounts of poke, and you're going to be doing the same here on Volskaya. The double long-range hit scan from Finger Lakes, if they are well positioned here, they could give Wake Tech the runaround for a long time.
But there's just a lot of poke from this defense. Oh, that's not someone you want to meet in a dark alley, but great shots from Teishinubu. Already forces the recall from Jimmy. And Teishinubu is going to be comfortable up there. Maybe you wish you had a Mercy Pocket. A lot of teams opt for that for just how long this map is, how much extra range you do need. That first jump from Llama Cartel, the flashbang, so critical from Crimson. That's their first pick from Wake Tech. They see those supports to the right side, and that's going to be where Wake Tech want to converge into, but Jimmy, 1-to-1 trade, I think it's still fine. Wake Tech don't decide to push into Mega. They opt for just getting that first take on the point, and Finger Lakes are getting torn apart.
If I could nitpick a little bit, and you know me, I will. I feel like Tornado Man and Llama Cartel needed to be a little bit better coordinated on their dives, because Llama Cartel was often using the Winston bubble while they had the Zarya bubble already placed upon them, and that kind of gave them a lot more limited survivability, because the Zarya bubble isn't taking any damage while you're inside the Winston bubble. It's the Winston bubble that's tanking that, so maybe could have been a little bit later by using that personal utility and guaranteed a better disengage.
Oh, getting close to that pulse bomb though. See if Tornado Mans will be ready with that bubble to protect whoever the victim could be, but Titanium close to the grab. That could be a winning condition itself, combined with the pulse bomb. The Tornado Man forces the self, and the grab comes out from Wake Tech. You combine it with the Valkyrie and all the firepower power of WakeTech as they break inside this point. And Deadeye will stop anyone from following up, and a responsive shot from Tishuna who takes him down. WakeTech have been cut in half, and despite that wave of ultimates, don't get a single tick of this point.
And even with 5 minutes on the clock, Lemon, this is worrying for WakeTech. They had so much in the way of momentum there. They had the grab. They had the whole hog as well. And they were stopped mostly by Jackie placing down a very important amplification matrix. At first, I had my doubts about it. But WakeTech actually stood back in quite a cowardly position, and it allowed both K-Shinobu and Glitch Sparrow to get good use out of an ultimate that should have been mollified by a good forward position. And now WakeTech, they don't have momentum on their side, and they're trying to siege into double hit scan.
Yeah, there could be so much time being wasted between building up energy for your Zarya and a great stick from Joe. No, he kills himself. He didn't recall, didn't blink away fast enough. And V-Pack's great hook on the Llama Cartel opens up this point for WakeTech. Fox somehow was able to res Jimmy, who's all the way in that back left side. You see they're trying to get on this point. 4 minutes left. Finger Lakes separated away from each other. Tornado Man's not able to launch. He should just launch the grab at this point, but maybe thinks that they can get back in time. It'll be up to Llama Cartel to touch, and they get blown up during the whole hog. Finger Lakes are just straggling in one by one, and if Tornado Man's that needs to come back with this grab, it's finally been thrown, catches at least Fox. The sound bear from Dapper will keep her alive.
A direct hit onto Vents while they use that rally made them easy pickings for Crimson King. And I don't know where Fox got her cloak of invisibility, but I bloody want one. They managed to get the raise on Jimmy Games that deep into enemy territory against double hit scan and the Roadhog and the Brigitte. What? Ow! I'm so confused. Did everyone have a collective brain fart? Like, oh, that red sound, oh, soothing to the ears. Turn it up louder, Alfred.
Yeah, every time you get a pick against an enemy team that has a Mercy, you always have to secure that space for at least 5 seconds until that Mercy just won't be able to get that off. Yeah, I'm so surprised that happened, especially when Finger Lakes had the hit scans that were right around the corner. And I would have liked to seen the grab get thrown out earlier. I would have liked to not see the whole hog get used 1v6. There's a lot of what ifs, but WakeTech with a 3-minute 32 time bank is large but not unbeatable.
Yeah, I think we also saw Shinobu hit a flashbang onto Jimmy Games and then miss the headshot, so the Tracer survived a little bit longer, but likely would have been resurrected by Fox anyway if that was the case. Overall, it was just quite a few top-tier plays, especially from Crimson King, hitting the direct bob onto Vents while Vents was channeling that rally. Vents could have allowed people to stay around for a lot longer. If they'd managed to get towards that grab that was being placed down by Titanium and start giving all of the victims armor, they could have lasted a lot longer. But that was very affirmative action from Crimson King that made sure that not only was one side of the point going to be locked down by the Bob, but that Brigitte would not survive.
Finger Lakes with the Symmetra, they want to get up close and personal and maybe even TP close to WakeTech to make that easier, especially without Lucio. You're missing out on a lot of speed, that's for sure. Great block with the shield from Llama Cartel. That hook would have been the end of somebody, whoever the victim would have been. Finger Lakes to the top right again. This is not a poke competition.
Oh, there we go.
With the Symmetra, you want to get close.
Yeah, you want to skip the poke phase, really. However, they managed to take out Fox. That's already the best pick possible from Jackie. She's making herself known as a DPS candidate, but taken out from behind by V-Pack, so now it's all falling apart. What happened to the teleporter? Why are you still back here?
Well, let's go, Vents. It's your 1v1 time. DPS now support. I think we had some substitutions. Finger Lakes brought Glitch in too, and where we saw a lot of Mei from Glitch, I think in the first map, which I think was hard to execute on Busan downtown just with how open that area was. So WakeTech cleaning this one up, leaves Finger Lakes less than 3 minutes to get this done.
There's still someone back in the spawn. It is Dapper Dino, so it will be back rather quickly, of course, using those skates. I'd like to see just taking of this bungalow here, where Titanium and Crimson King are going to be staying up. They will be booped off if they take the teleporter there now, so they've been a little bit too slow to make that rotation, but still denying this area away from their enemies is going to be critical because both Crimson King and Jimmy Games are going to consider this premium real estate.
I would not be sticking around opening that door to 6 people who were uninvited to this party. Finger Lakes already lost 1 support, so I think, Benz, if you want to equalize this, you gotta nano somebody, and they're just taking too long. They had such a great position, and they're pummeling V-Packs, but Finger Lakes lost way more.
Llama Cartel needs to turn that shield around and get healed up there by Venado. Now they've got 50% damage reduction. Tornado Man needs some backup. V-Pack slammed down to the ground, but that's a beautiful shield from Titanium, as we have come to expect. I've got to at least give some commiseration to Wake Tech there. They had a really good idea, and that Tornado Man actually bubbled Llama Cartel before they took the teleporter, which meant that they could not be booped by Dapper Dino and forced to disengage from Wake Tech. But I wonder why. Oh no, the whole hog on the teleporter. Yes, come on through for your environmental kills, but for some reason they destroyed the teleporter instead of allowing people to come through it. I don't know.
That would have been a cool 6K if that happened, but that's enough with the what ifs. I would like to see Finger Lakes also employ a diva just to zone off that center high ground, because you know, you TP up there, sure, they'll drop, but Jimmy will just climb right back up. That's the beauty and kind of a big reason why people use the Hanzo. Good dynamite. Crimson might want to throw this Bob on the point to separate Finger Lakes. It starts with the Ant Matrix from Jackia, and this could start shredding Wake Tech, and that is the combo we've been waiting for. Grab and Dragon equals death. You don't need a PhD in math to figure that out.
That is absolutely beautiful. Titanium and Jimmy Games combining in the best possible way. And it feels like Finger Lakes, they're a little bit lost with this Symmetra. Maybe they're used to playing this Symmetra against main tanks. You know, where you can like try and win the Reinhardt duel from the level 3 beam, just doing so much damage and really backing up your Reinhardt. But against this more mobile, more fluid double off-tank composition, it feels like the Symmetra is a very limited use.
Yeah, very limited. It got them in some positions, but they never got close enough, and Crimson uses Bob to light up the targets, the crowds, the final one for Tornado Man, so the rest of Finger Lakes comes out, but Wake Tech had more in store. The Valkyrie, the Sound Barrier, and more. Finger Lakes will be laying a finger on this point, and it's Wake Tech with the 3-0 going to the grand finals.
The much higher seed didn't count for anything. Wake Tech are on a roll. One upset in the quarterfinals, another in the semis, and here's Jimmy Games with the easiest play of the game that he's ever had.
Yeah, that's pretty true. We've casted this many of times. Yeah, I think I agree that should have swapped off to Symmetra. I think having a diva is just so pivotal on this map to be able to have that mobility to climb to these high grounds. You don't need to commit to a full dive, but just somebody that can attain those high grounds, whether it's a Hanzo, a diva, or something. I just felt the DPS of Wake Tech were so free.
Yeah, and it felt like Dapper Dino was doing a really good job on Malusia of making sure that even when you Symmetra teleported towards these guys, they were going to lunge away with a Hanzo, they were going to use the coach gun, they were going to boot, they were going to have really good spacing to make sure that that Reinhardt was never going to be able to really do that much. I would have much rather seen like a Winston come out, especially when we know that Purple on this roster can maybe play the Winston as well. It has confused me a little bit. And we saw like the swap around, like Llama Cartel played a very good Zarya on the defense of Eichenwald, and they put them on the Reinhardt, and they put Tornado Man, who'd been thus far playing Reinhardt, onto the Zarya. Like, I don't know what happened to Finger Lake towards the end, but it felt like they were getting progressively more lost.